I'll wait till Rachel gets it back up. Okay. Thank you. It is now 6 p.m., Tuesday, December 2nd. We'll call the City Council meeting to order. If you please rise for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible.
Thank you. Item 1, public comments and announcements. At this time, we'd like to listen to any member of the audience on any subject matter, whether or not that item is on the agenda. All comments are limited to a maximum of 4 minutes for each speaker, shall be limited to city business or city-related business, or matters of general public interest, and shall not include any personal attacks or abusive language. All public remarks shall be addressed to the chair. Comments should not be directed toward individual council members, city staff, or other members of the public. In accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, members may not discuss or take action on any item that has not been posted on the agenda. When your name is called, please come to the podium. The microphone should already be on, and state your name and address clearly into the microphone before making your comments. Thank you. First, we have Robert Leamy.
Good evening, Robert Laney, 1830 Lakeside Drive. Just wanted to get my 2 cents on the new divider out on the corner of Lakeside and NASA Road. And it's a good improvement. Obviously, it needs a little tweaking, but myself, other neighbors, just spoke with Tim Williams before I got here, who was off Laramie. He said it's prevented a lot of cars coming at him when he's trying to come out of his street that enter the turn lane too early. Is it not?
You might want to table it up. Yeah, sorry.
So yes, we need some improvement, possibly a little bit higher to prevent cars from coming over it. We've already watched a few cars drive across it. And one car turned out of a certain business and went the wrong way down the other side of the road onto NASA.
I'm so sorry. I just want to make sure you're heard. This one isn't working. Did you pause? I'm so sorry.
This one could hear me. That's what I thought it was. Hello?
Okay, we're good.
Okay.
Sorry.
So anyhow, basically that's all I was just getting up to say is it's definitely headed in the right direction. Hopefully TxDOT can tweak it a little bit, fix some of the other intersections along there, and make it a little bit better for us all, safer. Thank you.
Okay, next up is Kelly Stewart. Next up is Kelly Stewart.
Good evening. My name is Kelly Stewart. I'm here because transparency in Seabrook is missing. I feel it necessary to speak tonight because this is important and every word needs to be heard. Recently, Mayor Sweeney informed residents publicly that the city had no prior knowledge of the NASA Road 1 median construction. He said TxDOT arrived unannounced with no warning and no coordination. Those were his words. But thanks to one council member who filed a records request and made it public, we now know that's not true. Emails show months of communication between the city manager, TxDOT, and several city staff. Images exchanged, design options discussed, curb height questions asked, visibility and safety concerns acknowledged, and implementation coordinated. Those are not signs of surprise, that is participation. And when we asked how, we were not told the truth. The public did not know. We only learned the truth because one elected official chose transparency. Now, if that council member had not filed that request, we would still be living under the narrative that no one knew. This is why records requests matter. This is why limiting public access to records is dangerous. And that is why who sits on this dais matters. Because transparency should not depend on luck. It should not depend on whether one council member chooses to ask questions. And it should not depend on whether the city manager chooses to share the information. The city manager works for the public, and yet she has been insulated, protected, and sheltered. And history supports that. Since 2011, every mayor of Seabrook lives in the same neighborhood. Through the expansion, through Centerpoint, through development approvals, every administration came from the same circle, the same geography, and the same place of influence. Lake Cove and the Yacht Club have been a gravitational center of power in Seabrook for more than a decade. And when leadership lives in the same neighborhood, social circle, and proximity, it becomes harder, not easier, to challenge the city manager they personally know, socialize with, and protect. This isn't about bad people. It's about an unhealthy structure. Because while Lake Cove remains untouched and protected, other neighborhoods and businesses pay the price. Examples of just two are the Red Oak Acres neighborhood and now the NASA and Lakeside median. We all know the effects this has. Two mayors, two eras, different projects, and the outcome? Residents were blindsided, communication withheld, accountability was absent. And when the residents asked questions, we were told we didn't know, and then the documentation shows otherwise. So tonight I am asking respectfully for this council to call for a formal review. Why was the public misled about the NASA median? Why were the Centerpoint impacts hidden from Red Oak Acres residents until it was too late? Why is public access to records being restricted instead of expanded? And is our governance structure serving all of Seabrook or just those closest to power? This city deserves transparency and accountability. It deserves leadership that informs residents before construction begins and not after they are trapped by it. We have reached a turning point, not a moment of anger, a moment of awakening. If Seabrook is going to move forward, it must do so with the truth, with equal voice for every neighborhood and resident, with representation that sees beyond Lake Cove, and with leadership that is not insulated but accountable. Because transparency is not confrontation. Transparency is trust. And right now, that trust must be rebuilt. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next on the list is Joe McCall.
So this microphone's not working, I don't think. No.
Where
Now it is. So the median,
Your name for the record, please.
Joe McCall.
Thank
So
you.
the median was, we got a message from the mayor saying that they knew nothing about it, all that type of thing. Then it gets FOIA'd and we find out that the city manager obviously had been talking to him back in October. So that's an absolute lie right off the bat, just an absolute lie. Then I talked to Buddy Hammond through a text and he goes, oh, I knew nothing about it. How do you know nothing about it if you're on council? So the city manager just goes off and does what they want? That's not right. The people do know this. They know what's going on because they've seen it on Facebook and all that type of thing. So they know the communication is poor. It's not even close to being good. In fact, it's terrible. And they don't like being lied to. Just don't lie to the people. Why didn't they say, hey, our city manager contacted them and that's what we wanted to do? Why don't you just say that? You can't do it. But here's the other thing. TxDOT said it was a poor design. And they also said, hey, this is going to affect businesses, which it did. So then you got this guy going, oh, it's good, but well, we got to tweak it. Well, how's that good? Nothing in your life would be ever good if you have to tweak it. So that's not good. And again, communication poor. Communication's been poor. since I've been on council, we had all these meetings, every single meeting, and Buddy, you know that, Tom, for a few of them, that, oh yeah, we gotta improve communication every single time when we were talking about the city manager. Every single time, 8 years worth of that. When's it gonna change? So now we come to this city hall revamp. We're gonna revamp this place. The city hasn't grown, so why are we gonna revamp it? You're gonna spend $650,000 of the taxpayers' money to revamp City Hall? What a joke. No one wants that. How does that help the citizens? We haven't grown, we're not getting bigger and bigger, but you wanna revamp it. But, you know, it takes forever to get a pier, we're not getting one, the boat ramp, you know, that's not built. There's so many things that the city could do. Again, poor communication, but let's go spend $650,000 to revamp a city hall that doesn't need it. And then people have been wanting the sound wall. I've been hearing that again. That's starting to come back up again, especially when you get to winter. All the leaves off the trees are coming down. Sound wall's gonna happen one day. Maybe if the city manager secretly contacts TxDOT and pushes it, maybe we could get it. Because obviously they do that for the median. So we'll see what happens. But the people are gonna speak up. The people are gonna start talking a lot more about this because they want a sound wall. They don't want the median to wreck businesses on both sides of NASA 1, which it did. TxDOT said that. And they don't want to revamp City Hall, and they want better communication between City Hall and the citizens. And by the way, this is the people's building. This isn't, you don't own it, the people of Seabrook own it. That's what, I don't get it. And also, again, I keep going back on this, because you keep getting ready to want to say something, but you really need to read the First Amendment. You swore, you put your hand up and swore to it, to uphold the Constitution. I don't think you really know what it says, because there's a lot of things that you keep saying that we can or can't do in that first little paragraph, and that's incorrect. I have every right to criticize my government, and not only is it my right, it's actually my duty. So I wish you all would read it really well, because that first paragraph, you would change the whole thing, because it means nothing.
Yes, thank you, Joe. Item 1.1, Mayor, City Council, and/or members of city staff may make announcements about city and community events. Gail, is that you?
No, it's me.
Oh, wait, we reversed it. All right. Well,
Yeah. So we got a lot of plans this December. On Wednesday, December 3rd, that's tomorrow, correct? Tomorrow, the Seabrook Police Department is hosting a holiday blood drive with the Gulf Coast Regional Blood Center. Donors will receive a free stocking stuffer and an A1C test. That is Wednesday, December 3rd from 10 a.m. to 3:45 p.m. over here at the Seabrook Community House. Our tree lighting is going to be on Thursday, December 4th from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. over also at the Community House. We're going to have holiday music, festive treats, local vendors, and a special visit from Santa Claus to kick off the season in style. Once again, that is Thursday, December 4th. From 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. over at the Community House. City offices will be closed on December 23rd, noon on Tuesday, and will remain closed on Wednesday, December 24th, and Thursday, December 25th, in observance of the Christmas holiday. City offices will also be closed at noon on Wednesday, December 31st, and will remain closed on Thursday, January 1st, in observance of the New Year holiday. And all the way in January, we have a tree planting day of awesomeness, which is on Saturday, January 3rd, 2026, from 9 a.m. to noon at the Public Works Complex. Did I miss anything in that?
I have a couple. If you can't make the blood drive on Wednesday, the Seabrook Volunteer Fire Department is hosting a blood drive on Monday, December 29th. It's currently scheduled to be at our fire station. Depending on how construction goes and how we may relocate it, but their social media will start putting that notification out. And also on Saturday, we will be doing our annual Santa run where we, escort Santa Claus around the streets of Seabrook and El Lago. Plan on leaving the fire station on East Meyer promptly at 8 a.m. So just kind of keep your eyes and ears out for the air horns and the sirens, and we'll be looking forward to bringing Santa Claus around town once again.
Anything else? All right, looking forward to Santa Claus. Item 1.2, pardon me, city manager update and report to city council on various items that require no action, including Seabrook boards and commissions, transportation projects, and City of Seabrook CIP projects.
All right, Mayor and Council, had a couple questions on decorations. So we've gotten our street decorations up on Main Street. Hopefully by now you've looked at the external part of the community house. We've gotten a fresh paint on that. That's part of the community house update project. And we have all the decorations up for the tree lighting. If you notice, we still have our patriotic banners up, so we do have banners coming soon. This is a sneak peek at the new designs that will be going up. These will be not only on Main Street, but NASA and the rep store for the Seabrook Center area as well. On the transportation projects, 146 Tech Stop project going from Red Bluff to Spencer. The final beams are next on the schedule, so the foreman that I've talked to, there's some scheduling that they're trying to get them back in our area in that particular intersection. So the beams to finish out the set will be next. The priority for them is getting the northbound main lane widening. So if you've seen just to the north of our city limits, those main lanes are getting prepped up and they're rolling out for the new northbound entrance. They're still targeting January or February of 2026 to get the new entrance. Again, information on this project is on our website and linked to the Tech Stop project site. There is going to be just to the north of us 2 entrance ramp changes, and that is the northbound first, but then the southbound will also have a reconfiguration. CIP updates, the wastewater treatment plant will begin hopefully mobilization in January. We're still working on the final contract and the supporting documentation, but crews will move in and you'll see some activity at this site very soon. The fire station bond project is coming along. They've got everything ready for the pad site, getting ready for the concrete pour. With the rain, it's kind of slowed us down just a little bit, but that's going well. Our fire department training tower is another bond project. So this is, as everyone knows, the committed fire training grounds across from the Public Works Center. And the animation that you see down on the right-hand side, that's our prefab training tower that has been put on order. So that is about a 5 to 6 month lead time on that. The concrete pad site that this will sit on, we've finished with our consultant the design on that. And we've moved over to our building department, worked with the fire department on overall site plan. This will be sort of one of additional future plans that we've been discussing internally. So stay tuned. We'll probably be talking about this at your next budget cycle, just things that they would be looking at taking into the future on that particular pad site. The Pelican Bay Pool Bond project, again, is coming along. So that is sort of a fresh picture out there. All of the demos been complete. The form of the 2 new pools has taken shape, and they're getting ready or very close to starting that casting process. We also have a number of street projects. Our 2 main street projects right now are East Meyer and North Meyer that have taken a beating during the 146 construction project. We have gone through East Meyer project. The City Council, you guys have approved the design project on that. So we've moved to getting the final bid set ready. We'll go to publication this month and then schedule a bid opening sometime in late January. And so probably late January or early February, we'll be moving over back to City Council for whatever that bid opening comes back at. Then we'll look at a timeline with the contractor, and we will not be doing East Meyer, North Meyer at the same time. However, North Meyer is our second highest priority. And we are working with the county. Again, we had a partnership grant with the county on this project, and that is been in the holding pattern for I think a year and a half. So we have decided we'd take the design project in-house and then apply for partnership grants for construction. So this one will be coming to you probably in the next City Council meeting. Couple other things. When we met with the county this week, we did get updates on Toddville. And Toddville, if you drive it, there's a couple of patchworks that they've corrected. So we were trying to get additional information on what their plans are because it's obviously got some great issues past Hammer and back towards the north section. They are going to send us a follow-up information that we will share with everyone on what their plans are as far as additional repairs, because we know if you're driving in that section, we've got some more than the 2 sites that they patched up. So we won't know until we get that follow-up email, and we'll share that. They are sharing with us, the county, the preliminary engineering plan for the section from Main Street down to approximately Hammer. So the anticipated scope of what we thought Toddville was going to be is much reduced. And that's why we're asking what their plan is for the rest of Toddville. So as soon as we get confirmation on what their plans are, we'll push that out. I know there was a question on Red Bluff for the railroad, that piece. While we were doing an update call with them, we did ask about that. Union Pacific is the holdup on that. That is Union Pacific equipment, and the county has been designated as the lead on this. However, they cannot rip up Union Pacific equipment without Union Pacific approval. So they are on top of it. They do apologize, but they can't move until Union Pacific gives the green light. Any questions?
Okay, couple questions. Thank you for the update on the decommissioned tracks, by the way. So they are reaching out to Union Pacific for that? Okay. Another one, I'm assuming when you say January, February, that's for like 146 where all the accidents are occurring? Because there was another accident today.
Is that closer to Port Road?
Port Road.
That's outside our city limits? Yeah.
Yeah, so have we requested that, but it starts closing right outside of Seabrook. Have we requested that they add additional signage or anything where that merger is? Because there's accidents.
I did send a request for that. They've not moved on that. They think that they've got proper signage on there, so.
Can we request it again?
We
Sometimes the squeaky wheel. I mean, it's a hazard, and I drive there every day, and I see at least every few days there's an accident right there backed up into Seabrook.
Right.
And the last question is, I see that the rail spur is active now. Any updates on the quiet zone, because the horns have been excessive? And then also there was a train actually stopped across 146. I don't remember if it was yesterday or 2 days ago, but it was at a dead standstill, backing all the traffic up.
So someone did tell me about that. I had reached out to the port. There's 2 things that's a little bit concerning. So one weekend, I did notice the arms were malfunctioning. So I put in a request. I haven't heard back from them, but I've got a meeting with them tomorrow. So I'll follow up and see where they're at, the quiet zone is, and then what's going on. Because I think they've got some issues with the actual equipment as well. I had not been alerted that they were going to run any trains, but they did say that they were going to have to do tests before they went live. So I'll see if that's what their test was. What day was that?
I believe it was yesterday. Yeah, I'm actually certain it was yesterday because today's Tuesday.
Okay.
Thank you.
Gail, I have a question. Have we had any updates on the sign project for Old Seabrook? I know we had that the ad hoc committee and they met. Has there been any progress on that, or kind of any updates for that?
I believe I'm going to be proposing us go back out. We had Kimberly Horn produce something, but I think I'm going to try to break that up and we'll go back out to bid. With kind of a change in personnel, we're getting the new person on, and we've got the banners. We were kind of working on banners when we had the change in personnel. So I will get hopefully that bid put together, and you'll see that go out first quarter of 26.
Anything else? Okay, thank you. The council will now convene into executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.071 to seek advice from our city attorney regarding matters protected by attorney-client privilege at 6:24. We adjourned executive session at 6:41, coming back into open session at 6:42. There you are. Give me just a second, please. Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Sorry, housekeeping. Thank you. Oh, sorry, Tom, I didn't realize you were back. Before we begin our regular agenda, I have two statements of facts I'd like to read into the record. One of them is regarding a public comment from our November 18th City Council meeting. First, regarding the Public Information Act process, the City of Seabrook has never been the subject of a complaint or an investigation by the Texas Attorney General related to public information requests. When the Attorney General becomes involved, it's because we have submitted documents for review, which state law requires whenever there may be attorney-client privilege material. These reviews are city-initiated and reflect the process we follow to ensure compliance and transparency. Next, during the November 18th meeting, there was a reference to a cost estimate on a records request. In that case, staff discovered that the initial date range was incorrect. The city caught that error internally, corrected it, and issued a revised estimate. The Attorney General had no role in that matter. There was also discussion of another request where some documents might contain attorney-client privilege information. All non-privileged documents were released right away. The remaining materials were submitted to the Attorney General for required ruling. That ruling is still pending, and at this time, no directive has been issued instructing the city to change anything. This is the normal process built into state law. These are the confirmed facts from the City Secretary's office. Seabrook is committed to following state law, to handling public information requests accurately and ethically, and to correct mistakes when they occur. And for clarity moving forward, any official factual statements about city processes or procedures will come from the mayor's chair or through our formal communication channels so everyone receives the same accurate information at the same time. I'm putting that into the public record. Second, regarding the TxDOT construction on the median, I would like to enter a brief statement of fact into the record. The city has reviewed the full email record between the city manager and TxDOT. The verified facts are as follows. On October 9, 2025, the city manager contacted TxDOT after verbally receiving a new safety complaint about near head-on conflicts involving the turn lane at Lakeside Drive and NASA Parkway. The suggestion made by the city was only for delineators, those thin white PVC columns, as a safety measure. TxDOT decided against both a painted stripe area called a gore leading into the left turn lane from in front of Classic Cafe and against the delineators. The city manager also made a specific comment about safety and not creating a condition that could cause more accidents. This is all in the email chain. TxDOT then proposed a double curb as their preferred engineering solution. This was entirely a TxDOT-initiated design based on their traffic engineering judgment. The city did not design, request, or direct the installation of a median. The city manager asked TxDOT only for an example photograph to understand what type of curb TxDOT was considering. On November 19, 2025, TxDOT independently installed the median. When the city became aware that the installation affected access, staff contacted TxDOT immediately by phone, and TxDOT could not stop the current construction but agreed to modify the configuration. That is being scheduled. These are the verified facts of the communication. The city requested delineators for safety. TxDOT rejected that option and selected its own engineering design. The statement is entered into the record to ensure clear and accurate information for our residents and businesses. Thank you. All right. Presentation, item 2, presentation, item 2.1, presentation of the monthly financial reports for the periods ending September and October 2025. Mike?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight, we're going to go through our preliminary September year-end unaudited financials. We've backed in the majority of all our entries, and we're doing our best to kind of round out our fiscal year 25. So up there tonight, our revenues, I apologize, the revenues in the general fund should read 15.7 million for a under budget number of 840,000. Our expenditures are 14.7 million. under budget by 1.7 million. The unaudited ending fund balance is projected at 10.1 million, which is above our budget by 990,000. So roughly we have a surplus of 990,000 going back to our fund balance currently. This is just another presentation of that information. We have our beginning fund balance, the revenues collected, expenditures, some outstanding POs, as well as leaving some money in the event that the auditors have us make any adjusting entries so that we're not dipping into our fund balance. Even with that, it leaves us with $800,000 change in fund balance, which again is that 10.1 million estimated balance. Our enterprise fund revenues came in at 12.8 million. We were 8% below budget. Expenditures came in at 12.8 million, which was 6% under budget. Our projected fund balance is 2.2 million roughly. So the unaudited change in fund balance is a drop of $4,000. Hotel occupancy, our revenues came in at 691,000, above budget by 85,000. Expenditures were significantly under budget by 128,000. Projected fund balance there is 734,000. EDC, again, revenues came in slightly above budget, 1.3 million. Expenditures were considerably under budget due to certain projects being postponed and or revisited. So our total expenditures were 613,000, which brings our unaudited ending fund balance to just over 5.4 million, net change of $783,000. And finally, our crime district revenues came in at 1.2 million, just 1% over budget. Expenditures were $953,000 total, 11% under budget. So our unaudited ending fund balance is 1.8 million. So a total change of fund balance of 224,000. Before I move on to October, does anybody have any questions on September? No. All right. Gail, I apologize. I meant to pull that slide. Here is our kind of jumping into October, which is our new FY26 budget. October kicks off the year. Here we're showing our beginning fund balance at 10.1 million. Revenues collected through October were 1.4 million. Total expenditures for general fund were 2.4 million. Unchanged fund balance right now we're showing to be on budget through the first month. Enterprise fund, again, revenues were 1.1 million. Here, this was 13% over our October budget. Expenditures were 1 million, which seems to be on track with our budget. Our projected ending fund balance as of right now is an increase of 100,000. Hotel occupancy, again, just with 1 month to look at, our revenues came in at 97,000, marginal shortfall on our projected budgeted number. Expenditures were 100,000, 10% over what we kind of budgeted for the month, but that was largely due to all the expenses we were beginning to make for the Fleet Week, which my understanding is some of those will be coming back to us, but that's not reflected in the numbers as of so far. So again, our projected fund balance right now is unchanged at $734,000. EDC, the revenues came in at $107,000 for October. That's within our budget. Expenditures were $376,000. We do have quite a few projects planned out for the year, which we're showing a drop in fund balance to $4.5 million. And our crime district budget for October, we came in at $89,000 for total revenues. Expenditures were $126,000, which were just a percentage of under budget, and projected fund balance is ending at $1.1 million, and that's largely due to the we planned for the purchase of that new water vessel this year. So I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
I have a question, Mike.
Sure.
On the hotel motel budget projections, was there any about the World Cup is coming to Houston next summertime, and even though all the events are going to be heading up there, like obviously like our area is going to be in flux with hotel stays and Airbnb rentals, was that taken into any kind of like context when y'all created the budget for those potential revenues coming in?
I believe we looked at we looked at a number of things. One, the overall I would call it success. We came in over budget for the year on hotels, so we were looking at our history. We're looking at what we currently received, as well as any projections for overflow that we may get from said event.
All right, thank you.
Mike, I had a real quick question.
Yes.
So with the amount of rental properties increasing in the city for short-term rentals, how do we collect and make sure we're getting our share of the hot tax from the Airbnbs and VRBOs?
So one of the things I do is I pull there's a website, comptroller's website, where I pull the numbers of short-term rentals, things of that nature, as well as hotels, to see who's filing with the state, and then make sure to compare what we're collecting, our percentage based on their revenues. So does that capture everybody? Probably not. I mean, I do my best to try and send letters when I can if I notice someone. If I'm, we have a list of all the people who've pulled the short-term rental permit. We also get a number of people who claim zero rentals. If y'all want to hire some auditors to go after them, we can. I mean, I will say it's not a tremendous amount of money. I know we looking at outside agencies to kind of help capture that. And it's kind of like, do you want to spend 30 to collect 1,000?
Right.
And that's really kind of where you would end up.
I was just kind of curious how that worked. Oh, gosh, here we go. I shouldn't have brought this up.
That we are under, short-term rentals are a honor system program.
Do you see the intensity of how he's looking at me right now?
And that we can check to see who's paid, who hasn't, or who's even got permitted to have a short-term rental.
Okay.
We have a long way we could go to do a better job.
Okay.
Letting you know.
Got it.
That's true. Anything else?
Way to go.
Nope.
Anyone else? Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. All right. Consent agenda, item 3.1, approve the minutes of the November 13th, 2025 and November 18th, 2025 city council meetings.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Councilmember Hammond makes a motion to approve. Councilmember Tolet seconds. All in favor? Opposed? None? Thank you. Unanimous. Okay, item 4, specific public hearing. Item 4.1, consider a public hearing on a request to purchase and for the city to abandon, vacate, and convey a city right-of-way generally located within the Gay Vista subdivision known as Bay Vista Drive, originally platted as Palm Drive and Flamingo Lane, described as a 60-foot right-of-way being a 1.473 acre, 64,152 square feet tract of land situated in the Ritz-Mars Survey A52, Harris County, Texas, according to the map or plat thereof, recorded in volume 058, page 024 of the Harris County Maps records. Sean?
So,
Sorry, let me open the public hearing at 6:57. Sean will give a presentation.
So, as the mayor just stated, the Bay Vista Property Owners Association has formally requested the abandonment of Bay Vista Drive, and their hope is to create a gated community. You can't gate public streets, so it's a requirement to go through this process if they're to move forward. Bay Vista Drive is currently a public roadway maintained by the city. The Property Owners Association is fully committed to assuming responsibility if this is approved for the operation of Bay Vista Drive. They'll maintain and oversee any continuous management, and again, their intents to install a gate. What the Property Owners Association hopes to do is basically kind of duplicate what's directly to the north of them. There's a subdivision directly north of them that is gated, and it's their hope to have that same condition. The Property Owners Association will comply fully with fire and police access requirements. The Property Owners Association will accommodate essential public services such as trash collection, recycling, utility maintenance. Currently, there is no public access to the water within the subdivision. I know it has come up, but there isn't. All the property that's adjacent to the waterway within that subdivision is owned by Bay Vista property owners. This is kind of our checklist. This is what we have to go through before we can even bring this to you guys for consideration. They have submitted their application and the associated fee. They have hired a appraiser to do an appraisal of the asset. Tonight is our public hearing, and I did send a letter out to all the public utilities. So as part of our ordinance, I'm required, all the franchise utilities, I'm required to send out a notice. I've received 2 responses. One of them I knew was coming because it was us. We do have our utilities, our sewer and water is within the right-of-way within that subdivision. And then CenterPoint Gas sent an objection to, without an easement, their gas line's actually in the road right-of-way also. As part of this process, if it is approved, what we typically will do, and the homeowners association has agreed, as part of the closing documents, we'll create an easement document for access, for public access to maintain those utilities, and also a utility easement granting us rights to have our utilities within that easement. So we'll be able to address it if it's approved through the closing process. And we'll establish those rights so that typically it will no longer be a public street, but we'll have utility easements to accommodate our needs and our franchise utility needs. With that, I welcome any questions you may have. I do have the survey available if you guys want to look at the actual survey of the subdivision.
Tom, you had something?
Yeah, just let everyone know, community and council as well. If there are any repairs by utilities, how are they handled, and how is that street needs to be put back the way it was so that
If there was a damage occurred?
That's correct. It will be the responsibility of the franchise utility if there's any maintenance or anything done within the utilities. It would be much like when Frontier was in our city doing their utility, putting their utilities in the ground. There were some issues with some damage and stuff that was occurred. The city worked directly with that franchise utility to make sure that's fixed. And those utility easements aren't only issued to the city, they're issued to all utilities. And so we had some authority to make sure those things were corrected.
And that appraisal has already been done, correct?
The appraisal has been done.
Can you remind?
Yeah, the appraised value for that asset came back at $167,000.
And the neighborhood's already aware of this appraisal?
That's correct. They were the individual, through the process, they agreed to do the appraisal. And so we verified that it was through a licensed appraiser. And so, yes, they are well aware of what the asset was appraised at.
Last question. So they have already alluded to the fact they're willing to pay the value.
Yes, they will have to, yeah,
And is that a fair value? Have you determined that's a fair value for that piece, for that asset?
that's correct.
Okay. And then I had one other question. Are you going to be able to do a concurrent right-of-way within the agreement for both the franchise and the city? Or are we going to have to go to have two, will the right-of-way that you write in the document be for both the city and Centerpoint?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Ultimately, those utility easements that we'll establish through that separate easement document, it'll be allocated to all utilities. It won't just be it'll be to all our franchise utilities and to the city and access to gain those. Because at some point in time, if another franchise utility has to come in and put utilities within there, that dedicated right-of-way will be a utility easement for all of
Okay,
use.
thank you.
What is the current condition of the street?
It's fair to normal condition. I mean, at some point in time, they're going to have to do some repairs to it in the near future, but I would say fair.
In the event that a storm or some type of sort of damage is done to those streets, the city would still be able to go in there and inspect it and make sure that it was done to proper standards and proper code and similar streets throughout the city?
That's correct. So within our subdivision ordinance, it dictates that all public and private streets have to be maintained to our standards. And so we do have authority to make sure that occurs.
And I just had one for clarification. In 5 years, the city doesn't want to be going in and fixing somebody else's streets that are in disrepair. I know the subdivision, they have the money to, in perpetuity so the city's not going to have to come back in and say, oh, it's,
Yeah.
we can't afford to fix our streets.
Yeah, I believe this neighborhood or this subdivision, and again, the president for the HOA or Property Owners Association is here if he would like to address this, and correct me if I state something wrong, but it's my understanding that there is a trust that has been established, and a lot of that subdivision, the survey that I included in y'all's packet, you'll see that it's been reserved now to the HOA where a lot of it's green space and it can't be developed in the future. So they do have the associated funds to build the gate. They will be submitting, it's my understanding they already have a design that's been prepared. It's quite nice, and they'll be coming in and presenting that to staff for permitting, and they do have the funds to maintain the street in the future.
Just a quick question. Do we foresee any issues with access to emergency services like police or fire in case they need to get in? I know a gate kind of probably delays it a little bit, but
We have several gated communities within our subdivisions within our community. Our fire marshal works directly with those different subdivisions and make sure there's emergency Knox boxes. There's some conversation in the future. We may even create some ordinances on how the codes are set up on certain electronic gate codes and stuff. But historically, we have not had any problems getting in and out of there. Typically, the fire department, even if there is an issue, they got the tools and the resources, they can get in a gate.
Yeah.
I think we're in good shape there.
And typically on that, any area that's gated, that we have, there was what we call a 911 box, and it's a key lock. All of our apparatus have the key to open it, and it will open that lock up and allow us to gain access. And
That's that red box that you
yeah.
see?
And then, like Sean said, if that doesn't work, we have saws and other tools to get in there. We try not to, but
Any other questions from council? Do we have anyone here who would like to make a public comment or question? No, hearing none. Thank you, Sean. We'll close the specific public hearing here at 7:06 and go to item 5. Thank you, Sean. Go to item 5, bid awards. Item 5.1, considering to take all appropriate action on the proposal with Branch Construction Group in an amount of $53,827 for CIP project D19 outfall repair, and authorize the city manager to execute the proposal and any associated documents. Yes, sir. You want to tell us what that is?
So this is in CIP D19, we have 5 identified locations where we would like to make their outfall repairs. This is going to be like the first test for the contractor. It's a TIPS contract, and we believe we got a really good price.
Outstanding.
Move to approve 5.1.
Second.
Councilmember Hammond moves to approve 5.1. Councilmember Tolet seconds. Any further discussion with council?
I just have a question for you. Is there a timeline for the other 4 outfall pipes?
It'll be before the end of the fiscal year. So hopefully when this one gets done, if they do a good job, we'll bundle all the other 4 into one project
Okay.
and come back to council for approval.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions from council? Hearing none, we have a motion and a second for item 5.1. All in favor, indicate. Opposed, unanimous. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Item 6.1. Okay, consider taking additional actions to sell, abandon, vacate, and convey the right-of-way generally located within the Gay Vista subdivision known as Bay Vista Drive, originally platted as Palm Drive and Flamingo Lane, described as a 60-foot right-of-way, being a 1.473 acre, 64,152 square foot tract of land situated in the Ritson Morrison Survey, abstract number 52, Harris County, Texas, according to the map or plat thereof recorded in volume 58, page 24 of the Harris County map records, and further to order title and direct the city attorney to prepare the appropriate ordinance.
Move to approve 6.1.
Second.
Councilmember Hammond makes a motion to approve 6.1. Councilmember Sessom seconds the motion. Any just further discussion from council? If not, all in favor, indicate. Opposed? Unanimous? Unanimous? Yes? Thank you. Item 6.2, consider and take all appropriate action on directing staff to prepare a draft ordinance regarding the records management included within the Texas Local Government Code and develop longer retention records for certain specific records than the established retention periods outlined by the Texas State Library and Archives Association. I think that's known as TSLAC. Anyone?
I had a few questions for Dave Olson,
Certainly. Of Rachel? Oh, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
legal. So my first question, and I know we discussed this, but I just want to, make sure that I understood correctly. The 2-year is that a hard requirement or just a suggestion?
Well, that's a minimum.
It's a minimum suggestion.
Yes.
So there's no legally binding reason or trouble we could get in if we were to extend the amount of record retention
Yep, y'all can choose to extend the length of the retention, correct?
without reason?
Yeah, just because y'all think it's a good idea, yes.
Okay. I know it's funny, but that was
No, that's fine.
Rachel.
You-
Rachel was
the
unsure today when I
State Library establishes minimum requirements for cities to retain, documents that fall into certain categories. But it doesn't, nothing in there would preclude y'all from extending the retention period to be more, just
Okay.
not less.
Perfect. And my other question for you is, does the document need to be housed in more than one place? So the reason, I guess the context to that question is we already have in the city library and the archives, the agenda items, like historical agenda items. So could we write some kind of policy to just keep those as is and then have a retention policy moving forward for all new agenda items?
Sure. Yeah, again, y'all have discretion to add whatever length you think's appropriate. You just can't go less than the state mandated retention schedule.
Okay, the reason I was asking that question is because Rachel wasn't sure if we had it in the archive, if she would have to also put it in, the new,
We're required to keep one copy of all records.
okay, that's just, yes. you-
And Rachel and I have had several conversations since y'all have talked about these issues, but yes, as long as we have a record that meets the minimum standards the state requires, we would be legal.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Anyone else have any questions? All right, I guess we need, would someone like to make a motion of some sort? And it needs to be very specific.
Sure, so I can, well, it would be piecemealed, but I make a motion to keep the historic agendas as is, and to retain new agenda items for 10 years.
I'll second that.
Would that just be the, I'm just writing this down so I can repeat it.
Sure.
Would that just be the agenda itself, or, or the attachments to the original agenda?
The agenda and the attachments. So I did a little math based on the information that was given to me. Well, I've already made the motion, so,
Okay, so I'm just going to repeat.
sure.
Yeah, and I think I'd like to follow up on the mayor's
Go ahead.
clarification. So when the motion is for the agenda, but it sounds like you intend for the agenda and agenda packet to be maintained.
Correct. So agenda and all attachments. Should
Okay.
I?
And all packet information.
Okay.
But I think we understand.
That's how I understood it, was seconding.
The agenda and the agenda packet, basically.
The agenda packet.
So the motion is to change the minimum state requirements from 2 years specifically for the agendas and the agenda packets and extend that to 10 years.
Correct.
And that would include when you said historic agendas, those are the ones that are currently in the 2-year time period. We would just keep those. Is that?
We have a separate archive, so I guess that's where it's a little confusing. So to leave that archive as is.
Any existing agenda
Correct.
archives as is?
Correct.
Okay.
Indefinitely.
In the city documents, yes.
Okay.
Or 10 years, yeah.
I believe the existing archives indefinitely moving forward 10 years.
Yes, correct.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, yes. I missed that.
And the reasoning for this?
Well, we need a, we need a second.
Yeah.
We did a second. Who-
Tyler seconded.
I didn't hear.
Okay.
I thought that was part of the discussion. Okay. Okay, go ahead, bud.
Okay, and the reason?
The reason for public transparency, to eliminate the amount of open record searches that, or requests that are going to come in, people can reference that information on their own without having to submit requests. Any information that's purged or pulled back, the citizens wanting to get that information are going to have to go through the city secretary.
Okay.
I can say for myself, when I agree to this idea, it's the idea that when you're looking for multiple sources of understanding what the decisions are in certain days, I think a lot, just in my personal experience, trying to research up, trying to be a council member, doing my due diligence on understanding committees like EDC and the decisions and everything like that, having access to as much record as possible, including recordings and the podcasts that EDC has done in the past, has been helpful for me. Nothing replace sitting down and asking questions with city staff and getting that kind of thing, of course. But if I'm up at midnight, I don't want to call anybody on city staff. So I think in the interest for me in this is just having a longer period of access to information on city decisions.
I'm sorry. Microphone. Are we just talking about city council agendas? Do we need to be that specific?
The motion is for the council agenda and packet information.
Council agendas and packets. Okay, I see.
Here's my concern, is that if we do it for this, and the only reason we're talking about is transparency, what's not to open the door for somebody else coming up? Because like last time here, Ms. Rasco was asking for it. And so what's to stop somebody else coming up for another record? And what's the cost going to be? And I understand about transparency and access to records and all that, but when you get into records management, I mean, every record that the city has is identified in terms of retention and destruction by the state. So when we start adding on here, and somebody else wants to add on with the Board of Adjustments or P&Z or whatever, and then what's going to be the cost of that? And what would be the reason that we could say no, because we're doing this without any real reason, in that 50 people came up here and said, we're trying to access all the attachments to the agenda and couldn't do it. I haven't heard that. So just my thought.
So I just was just thinking about that, and so I see maybe another, just maybe an unintended consequence, or maybe it's the right consequence, is if they'll as the state legislature comes back into session and they change, let's say TSLAC or whoever changes the rules, then the city is going to have to constantly go back and forth to determine if are we following the right rules, or now is the state rules more stringent than ours? And is that going to cause additional work and confusion for city staff, and maybe the wrong records will get out? I'm just asking the question. Just a thought.
I 100% think that that's what would happen. I think moving away from anything that the state has recommended as their legal limits is a bad idea, personally. I'm all about transparency. There isn't any issue with people pulling requests to find the information they need. The agendas are kind of like a grocery receipt, itemizing all the stuff I bought from 2 to 3 years ago. I don't care. I just want to look at how much I spent. I mean, that's just me, but I think it's a bad idea all the way around to extend it.
Well, to address the concern about them changing guidelines, as a home rule city, we just heard Dave Olson say that we write our own guidelines. So
As long as they don't conflict with the state's guidelines.
right. So if we're saving them beyond the record, how would that conflict? Because I'm hard pressed to believe that they would come back and say that you must eliminate records after a year or 2 years. I mean, like that would be the only circumstance where we would have to backtrack from what we're doing.
Today is the only circumstance. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry, I thought you were done.
Sure. No, I mean, that's the only circumstance where that would take place. I'm hard pressed to find that they would mandate records be removed. And as I read last council meeting when we discussed this, LaPorte keeps them as dating as far back as January of 2019, Deer Park, August of 2013, Webster, January of 2014, Alvin, January of 2017, League City, 2010, El Lago, 2021, Kima, 2020. So, I mean, we're going to be the city of minimum, and I don't want to be the city of minimum. That's...
Well, I asked Rachel's question, and I didn't understand this, and maybe I don't understand it now, but different cities keep their required records in different places. Some keep them on a forward-facing, public-facing website. Ours is not like that. Ours is in the searchable library. So where you might be seeing, because I went and looked too, and they're there. And where we might be seeing items that are 3 or 4 or 5 years old on a public website in one of the cities, that's just because somebody didn't clean up their website. Their official records may be kept somewhere else. So I think, we have our public-facing kind of, searchable agendas, whatever, and then the archive, which is the city library, which is when the agenda becomes approved minutes, and those minutes become permanent record, and the attachments associated with those minutes also become part of the permanent records, and the agenda is no longer really valid for anything.
So the historical archive, the one that I recommended we keep, actually, it's on the city, it's not in the library, it's city records, and it's the full agenda packet, and that's how we have historically kept it until recently when those minutes started getting uploaded into the library. So that's a new change. The reason, in my opinion, that the full agenda packet is important is because it contains all attachments. The minutes do not contain all attachments. There are things that are excluded from the minutes. And so if you're searching in the city library, then you have to piecemeal everything. It's not right at your fingertips. It's not there together. So it is essentially less transparent. And then also those records are subject to be destroyed, some of them, in which case we have to reach out to the city secretary and do open records.
Okay, Jared had a comment.
Yeah, so a couple of things. So the motion tonight is only for council agendas and the council packets. So down the road, are we going to have to go line by line of every single board and commission and everything, and to establish the record retention for each individual committee, which, it sounds like a very long process. And I know, I get some of the cities that have the data still on there. Have we reached out to the cities to see what their actual record retention policy is? Like, do they follow TSLAC and they just haven't cleaned up their website? Because I know, like some of the cities, like they follow the TSLAC recommendation, because that's what TSLAC recommends on there. And yeah, they may have data on their website, And, it may just be like no one has kind of like what the mayor said, no one has cleaned it up. So I think, finding out what other cities' actual record retention policies are would also help. And then, like I said, I think, is this something where, at work, we deal with with government, with regulatory bodies, recommendations all the time. And for the most part, we always kind of stick with what they recommend. And the biggest reason that we choose to do that is because if the rules change, we don't have to worry about going back on the back end and changing policies and procedures, because everything that we do resorts back to, per DSHS policies, we follow these rules. And that would just, like, my concern, like, I think transparency is important.
Sure.
I think having access to all of all the historical data is important, not only because, we only serve here for either 4 or 8 years, so having access to historical data and institutional knowledge is something that you can't learn. I mean, it's just information that people have. So having access to that information is extremely important and extremely, viable for the future of the city. My biggest concern is this going to be something, like I said, that we're going to have to go line by line of like how often are we going to keep building in standards, EDC, how often are we going to, how does this going to affect, the courts, municipal courts and destruction of documentation upon all of those things. Does that make sense?
Yes.
do-
Tom, you haven't spoken, are you the only one that hasn't spoken? Do you have anything to say? Okay, before I give Buddy another shot here. Okay.
Okay, it's my understanding then what you're looking for are the attachments to the agenda, is that correct?
Are you asking me?
Yes, I'm asking you.
The keeping it together, correct?
Okay, maybe there's another way we can do that. And, I don't know if there is. So when somebody's doing research and you go to the agenda, that you can then see the attachments and they're there. Can we look into something like that before we go into what you suggested?
I think the reason this question came up, and I love compromise, that's what this is all about, right? But the reason this came up is because it was hardlined that we're going to follow TSLAC guidelines and purge after 2 years. So those records were going to be completely gotten rid of.
Okay, and we're just talking the attachments, correct?
Pardon?
We're just talking about the attachments to the agenda?
So if we attach to the minutes or something of that nature, is that what you're referring to? Because the minutes are basically the agenda.
Right.
Minus attachments.
So, and what you're saying is you want the minutes with the attachments, correct?
Correct.
Mayor, may I jump in?
Jump in.
Just remember, not to complicate things, but we are simply talking about existing records, documents, and how we keep them. We're starting to kind of delve into the creation of new stuff.
No,
So-
that's not on the agenda.
Okay.
Okay, everyone's had an opportunity to speak, I think, once or twice, or unless you have some, Tyler, you had, no, Jared? Okay, we have a motion. We have a motion and a second? Yes, I'm sorry. So at this point, I think we take a vote, and then we let the
Mayor,
party decide.
I know the motion is to make these changes. I believe the retention schedule was adopted by ordinance.
It was, yes.
So we would have to bring an ordinance back. So really, any action you take would just be to instruct staff to essentially bring back an ordinance reflecting action taken tonight. Just want everybody to be aware of that.
Okay, and so,
Quick question.
The motion can stand as written, as stated. It's not going to change the rule immediately. We're going to have to bring an ordinance back.
so our, if I can clarify, so our vote will just give staff instruction whether to do something or not, basically.
That's all we can do. And we can't amend an ordinance except, so we'll have to bring one back,
Okay.
reflecting action taken.
Did you have one more thing, Jared?
Does a city charter, I haven't memorized it yet, my apologies. Does the city charter mention anything about record retention? So like any action that's taken up here, is that going to anything that's going to conflict the city charter, which could potentially make more work?
The ordinance that the city attorney's referencing, I think there's one reference, but it's by ordinance. And in the ordinance, it's very detailed of the city secretaries, the manager, there's a committee that's formed, and then there's the reference to TSLAC. So it's a pretty long ordinance.
Okay, thank you.
I have one other question, and I promise I'm done. But it's tagging on, so we're discussing just the agenda today, but I'm hearing there's concern about the other boards and commissions. So is that something that will be purged? Is that something that's also going to come up that we need to maybe schedule another one of these to discuss?
I would say right now, staff is going to continue to follow the retention schedule unless y'all make changes. So, I mean, you've kind of itemized the one agenda issue, and y'all will decide tonight whether or not we're going to put something together. If something applies to another commissioner board or any other retained record for that matter that y'all would like to see adjusted, we'll have to have a discussion about it and bring it back to you, just like tonight.
So
Okay, so-
changing this doesn't, I'm sorry, Jim.
Okay.
So changing this ordinance in particular regarding specifically council agenda items, everything else still follows TSLAC guidelines?
Correct.
Okay.
Or what is adopted now, which is my assumption is all follows the state minimums.
Okay, so if we could take a vote on this motion, and in my mind, that vote is going to say, okay, we're going to leave everything as it is, or we're going to instruct the city to revise the ordinance based on this motion. Am I correct in that?
That's the affirmative. If the vote is in the affirmative, we're going to bring back revisions reflecting the motion. If it fails, then it's going to die unless y'all tell us to do something otherwise.
Okay. Let's take a vote then. So again, item 6.2, the motion is to consider and take all appropriate action on directing staff to prepare a draft ordinance referring back to the motion that Councilmember Cervantes made regarding the records management included within the Texas Local Government Code and develop long retention records for certain specific records and the established retention records outlined by the Texas State Library and Archives Association. And we're now taking a vote. All in favor of changing those, instructing staff to change those retention records, vote indicate by saying aye or raising your hand. All opposed? 4 votes to 1, 2, 3, 4 to oppose, 3, 4. So that
Motion fails.
Motion
Staff
fails.
at this time is not going to prepare an ordinance unless we're instructed otherwise.
Thank you. Item 6.3, consider and take all appropriate action on the first and final reading of ordinance 2025-26, amending the budget for the fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2024, and ending September 30, 2025 for city department encumbrances. Those are, is Mike, you going to address that? Tell me what encumbrance is.
Getting up to the podium. The next 2 items, this is for, again, for your fiscal year for last year. This is what we call our cleanup ordinance. Mike, I'll go ahead and bring up the attachment to this ordinance and see if there's any specific questions on that. And if you want to kind of re-explain from a financial perspective what you're doing for closing out this fiscal year.
Well, that kind of summed it up. Yeah, it is kind of our, as Gail said, it's kind of our cleanup budget amendment. It's basically aligning our expenses to reflect the actual, to align the budgets to reflect what was actually spent. For most of the general fund, everything was contained within the department. So maybe in finance, we had a line item that may have been over budget and another one under budget. And so it's really just truing up that budget. And so the net effect was 0, whereas in other departments, they may have had to borrow from some other departments to kind of stabilize and meet their budget, to have their budgets align with their expenses. So essentially, that is it in a nutshell. The total amendment is for $625,000 and some $620. Most of these are in the special revenue funds, so where there was no offset, the money's in the fund, but either we didn't budget for that particular project and or expenses exceeded the initial budget. But there are funds available. They're just unencumbered.
Move to approve 6.3.
Councilmember Hammond, sorry. Councilmember Hammond makes a motion to approve 6.3. Councilmember Tolet seconds the motion. I apologize. I'll read the first two lines because I failed to read that of the ordinance. An ordinance amending the amount of appropriations for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2024 and ending September 30, 2025 by authorizing certain additions in the amount of $625,620.40. And I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Opposed? None. Councilmember Sanford. She doesn't know. Abstain. Abstain, yeah. Absent for that vote, yes. Okay, that was 6.3. And we're going to 6.4. Consider and take all appropriate action on first and final reading of ordinance 2025-27, amending the budget for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2025 and ending September 30, 2026 for city department encumbrances, an ordinance amending the amount of appropriations for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2025 and ending September 30, 2025 by authorizing certain additions in the amount of $2,836,718.51. And I will not read all the rest of that because Michael will go over that.
All right, so this is kind of our rolling our active purchase orders that have not closed out. They were issued. So the surpluses that I mentioned earlier in our financial report, some of those items where I addressed there's outstanding POs, those funds are rolling forward in this budget amendment. I would like to say there is one item specifically that ties back to the $800,000 that we were showing in surplus. We're proposing, if council's in favor, to transfer that $800 from the general fund surplus into our capital project fund, Fund 28, for some items I think council's been in discussion with Gail about, and I think she's planning on going over them again later this evening. With that, I'll answer any other questions you might have on the amendment.
Move to approve 6.4.
Councilmember Hammond makes a motion to approve item 6.4. Councilmember Tolet seconds. Any discussion from council? All in favor? Opposed? None? Unanimous? Thank you, sir. Okay, 6.5, consider and take all appropriate action on amendments to the fiscal year 2026 capital improvement fund as it relates to parks projects, sorry. Gail, you have some stuff on that?
I do. Mayor and Council, as Mike mentioned, when we did the closeout, you currently have $600,000. We'll be discussing renovation projects here in a moment. In addition to the $600,000, when the fiscal year closed out, we are talking about an additional $800,000. So this CIP discussion item tonight is to discuss if that warrants possible change in your priorities of your CIP projects, particularly in the parks area or quality of life projects. So your CIP budget that you approved, we recently had a CIP discussion. We prioritized, there were a couple of projects that moved up and we were off, and then we found out we've got some additional surplus. So tonight I'd like to go over a couple of the projects, a couple of possible projects that are not on your CIP that are beginning to emerge, and then talk about those surplus funds. See if there's any changes to the allocation amounts and get some further direction as far as the next moves. If that happens, we will bring back a full CIP document with all these changes so that we can properly document what these priorities are. To begin with, this is a nice color-coded sheet, and this kind of sums up what our last discussion was about. The green indicates that you've got proper funding for these projects. Starting at the beginning, the pool facility, that is a fully funded bond project. We've got those proceeds now. The next one is Bayside Park. The majority of the port funds, the 1.5 that was allotted in that agreement, plus some additional funds, we were at the 2.8. The 2.8 is the designer's cost estimate before going to bid. That one was secured at our last discussion. The items, well, let me go on to your next green one. The Hester Park pedestrian bridge, after our last meeting, this was green lighted as a priority to get pedestrians off of Toddville. So the 168 is coming from port funds, and that was allotted to that CIP sheet. Now moving on, in orange, we had Robinson parking. That is on hold. We were going to see if the Harris County doing the grid with the gravel project over here off Meyer is something that we want to incorporate into our design. So that one was still approved, but on hold for 53. Then in pink, we did not have sufficient funding to move forward with Pine Gully Pier. We started a discussion that some additional funds, fundraising, grants, et cetera, would be needed to make a skate park / pump track possible. So that was, would like to have, but we didn't really have any funding tools in place to make that a green. So Friendship Park shade structure was a staff recommendation that was removed. And then Hester parking, that was removed as well, giving priority to Robinson Park. So in summary, the $800,000, I know this is tiny and I apologize, but that kind of is right now earmarked just for example purposes that it could be moved to any particular project. Again, the ones that do not have full funding would be your pier project, a skate park. The Carruthers project, I'll show a couple of screenshots here. The Parks Board's going to be meeting on some recent social media posts for recommendations of adding a component for a livable shoreline. And so that's not on your CIP currently, but I just want to bring attention to that. Carruthers does have the grading completed, does have the granite trails completed. However, with looking at the visuals on there, everyone can understand that that project is not complete. The Parks Board, along with members, have created a budget, and we'll take a peek at that, but estimating probably with all amenities to finish that out, we're probably going to need to earmark another $100,000 towards Carruthers. So that's a potential project. Bayside restroom, we currently in the cost estimate for the 2.8, we're looking at a trailered restroom, and that restroom is now from the workshop that we had going to be a permanent restroom. So the 150, we probably need to look at it, adding additional funds for a permanent restroom to that project. So the 2.8 would also need to be raised a little bit, and then other CIPs. So again, the 800 is floating in this example just as it can be added to any of your projects, your priority projects or future projects as a new form of funding. And as you can see in that example, it could change us being able to do any of these projects. So let me pause for just a moment. I've just got some very high level slides on the rest of this. If you have detailed questions on the port fund, for instance, but any questions on what we've delineated as non-funded projects? Any comments on that?
Let me just add just one item that would be of interest to the discussion. I had a discussion at dinner, Summer and I, with the county last week, 2 weeks ago, and they don't have funds for us for a park or pier project. They suggest that we move our priorities into mobility projects. So I just want to throw that in there, that we shouldn't, other than the $500,000 that's already been committed, we should not count on any additional funds from the county in the coming year to support a park project, if that affects anybody's decisions. Anybody else?
Yeah, I had a question. So I was curious about when that discussion changed as far as doing a permanent restroom, because that hadn't been decided in that meeting with planning and zoning.
That's correct. So I think the consensus is Sean will be meeting with planning and zoning. The ordinance will be your final document that would actually change. The walkaway on that was that there was a discussion that the city abide by all the rules as well. And that was just, as we're getting into this design, EDC will be looking at that project proposal to move forward. So I just want to make sure that's just on everybody's radar. If y'all change that ordinance, that's going to double probably the restroom cost in that cost estimate.
Yeah, so that was my next question. So what was the restroom cost with the trailered restroom, and what is the
So
projected?
they had it broke up. 150,000 was earmarked for the actual restroom trailer that would be backed into the permanent structure that they would facade it up a little bit. So they didn't have that specifically broke out. So probably 175 to 200,000 with the facade enclosure. But the actual trailer that would be, temporary. If it lasts 10 years, you'd have 150,000 plus inflation to replace.
And then what's the cost? What do you have a projected cost for the permanent?
For the permanent, no, I don't. We talked a little bit with the designer yesterday, I believe it was. They were roughly saying we've got to look at design next. So I just was basically saying this was a workshop that council and planning and zoning had that could change the scope of the project. They may even need to come back and modify their proposal. If it's something that's a prefab, it depends on what we go with. If it's, something like we did at Repsdorf, it could be a prefab and then the ramp and such could be dressed up. Or we could get something custom that's going to widely change the budget. So they're going to need some more input if that's what ultimately council does.
So is the Bayside Planning Committee going to reconvene? Are they going to be?
I hadn't gotten that far in the thought process. I'm just trying to give the designer some heads up. So we'll need to discuss that further.
Okay, I'm just asking because it was pretty definitive, and I thought that cost prohibitive is why they went with the trailer restrooms in the first place.
It definitely is going to be a cost. So.
But I think when we had that workshop, I think the consensus was rules for thee, not for me type of a mindset of and I thought that was kind of like the takeaway I took from it was to go away from or to look at recommendations to go away from the trailered one and to look at more of like a permanent structure.
Yeah, I think that wasn't on the stakeholders committee radar because we were always talking about this trailered structure, and then when we changed that conversation,
I think some of the members of the committee, I feel like they were like, if we're going to put rules in place for everyone else, we should. And I agree. We should abide by the same rules that we expect others to abide by. So that was my takeaway from that joint meeting was that we were going to look at more permanent options to go away from the trailered option for the bathroom.
Yeah, that was my takeaway too. The city always, I think, reserves the right to do something for the public good, but in this case, we all sort of agreed that we should lead the charge, so to speak, and show a good example.
I thought we were still discussing the long-term use potential, that we hadn't fully gotten away from that, so that's why I was asking all those questions.
Yeah, no, I think we're going to have another workshop, but this thing is a couple of years probably down the road. So I think if we make decisions based on what we think is going to happen, at least we have the money, and at least we're budgeted for the money, and we're not. If it happens, we don't have a shortfall. My opinion.
My takeaway was we were going to determine categories of short-term, long-term convenience. And so that we were working towards defining what that actually meant.
Yes.
And then see where Bayside Park falls into, for example, and some of the other requests. That was my takeaway from it. And I understood that was going to be first of the year, that we were not going to let this die, but we were going to get back on this quickly.
Any other questions?
Not on the bathrooms.
Summer?
Nobody.
Buddy?
Just one thing. I know in the stakeholders meeting for Bayside Park, the original meetings, and we were talking about the restrooms, et cetera. to have one elevated on site, they were talking over 600,000.
That's
The
what I was
same
saying.
thing for a floater. The challenge was that, okay, yeah, we can go ahead and spend that kind of money and get it, but if we have another barrel or an Ike, it will just scrape it clean, and, you know, that's not going to work. So, and that was, you know, with the best construction going forward.
A permanent structure or restrooms are going to be $500,000 or more.
I would expect so.
Because it's either going to be an elevator or it's going to be a ramp that is hundreds of feet long.
Yeah.
So we really need to take that in consideration when we're considering other opportunities. Or we won't have restrooms there.
Yeah, I think we need to definitely refocus on that, what you said, the long-term versus short-term, defining that and figuring out how that lands.
Go ahead, Gail, you had some detail. Let's look at the detail, and then we can have some further discussion.
So the projects in pink, again, just trying to get some direction tonight with the added $800,000. Again, this spreadsheet can be changed in either direction. The port funds, we did have a question at our last meeting when we discussed CIP. So just for reference, I'm including the port fund and how we set that up. This is the detail sheet with this in your fiscal year 26 budget. So right now we have 3.1 million going to projects, and they're listed here. So at the time that we approved the budget, we had Hester Park. That's the bridge. So we've got the 168 committed, 53 for Robinson parking. And then we did have some money towards Wildlife Park. And that was not a priority based on our last discussion. So the 3.1 million, I just wanted to show you how that is accounted for in that fund. Potential group surplus, this is kind of where the focus is tonight. So if there needs to be some shifts in priorities to look at different projects, you have 477,000, which is on that spreadsheet, kind of earmarked towards the pier, left in the port funds. You have the new 800,000 general fund surplus, and then we had put $400,000, and this is what I failed to mention at our last meeting, in Fund 28, when we did do the matching grant with the county, we had put the 400,000 aside because it's a matching grant. So those are the funds that come to approximately 1.6 million on the conservative side. That it should council want to reallocate those. That's kind of the direction I was looking for tonight. Again, Crothers Coastal Gardens, I'm calling this your project finish out. This is just an earmark number. Again, the committee for recommending is got some budget recommendations. I think those are probably need to be put some contingencies on, so I've rounded it to $100,000. This is the detail that they've submitted. So again, some of these may not be accurate, and I've rounded that up a little bit. They've got $70,000 for what they're calling Phase 3. This would include your benches, fountains, any kind of art structures, and putting a gate at the east entrance of the park. Again, livable shoreline is something that the committee, recommending committee is going to be presented with. And so I anticipate this project is going to be recommended and sent back over to you. So I've interjected it just for discussion purposes tonight. And then, of course, the Pine Gully Pier, I will add, I just got an email a few minutes ago, the checking on the piers. That survey was done, so I'll get that tomorrow on piers that could be removed, piers that could stay. So some of the demolition cost on this could drop a little bit, but this is your last standing amount for the Pine Gully Pier. We've talked about Bayside restrooms, so the $150,000 for the trailer, and I just have put $300,000 possibly for discussion, and we'll see how that goes. So let me go back to our color-coded sheet. With the 1.6 approximately, we can maneuver the spreadsheet in a number of different ways. Again, is there any comments with your pink projects here, trying to seek some direction of council in what do we want to do?
So the 1.67 plus the 500, that's where we're getting the pier. So if if we wanted to take that 1.67, whatever that number is, and do something else with it, then we would just discount the 500,000 from the county, and that's we essentially the funds that we have to play with is 1.6. I mean, what if we were to grab 3 project scopes, the pier, something else, and put those in the form of a survey of some sort that we, there must be some structure in place to do that we let the citizens decide how they want us to spend their money. And then, you know, if it's the pier, we build the best darn pier we can build them. If it's the
100%
bump track,
Support that.
skate track, it's the best darn skate track we can build them. You know, let's let the folks decide instead of us making the decision. And so if we're kind of in agreement with that, then I think we need to come up with 3 packages, or maybe Gail can come up with 3 packages. I kind of like the new Carruthers. I saw it on Facebook, and it's if you've been out to the new Coastal Gardens, it's just the point there where, like, the trail stops and there's no place to go. It would be nice to have some place to go that sort of followed the flow of the trails out to the water line. Just kind of walk around the water line, maybe step down to the water, and then that bump just brings you back either to the trail at the east gate or to the parking lot at Pine Gully. It just kind of, it finishes out the project.
It's an excellent rendering, and I think the idea is great. I think
Yeah.
we need to proceed with that as soon as possible. And let's see if we can get something going.
Just a bit-
Carruthers, we need to get Carruthers.
I know, as a bit of history,
Getting old.
I know.
Tom's time's almost done.
As a bit of history, in the second group that was what to do with Carruthers, that was in there.
Yeah.
And the original design was to have a point of lookout to where people could go. So, I mean, just for what it's worth.
I mean, I have no idea what that would cost. We haven't even really had the presentation for Parks and Trails yet, but, so let's take, obviously, the pier, right, is the elephant in the room, that we can fully fund the pier project, apparently, right? Or we can fully fund the skate park with the 1.6 skate park bump track, a nice skate park. Or we can do another group of projects, which might be the Carruthers Point project and, I don't know, the Bayside restrooms and something else, as 3 quality of life items that we could really move forward and get done with this money.
I think that Bayside is probably going to be one of the ones that's going to have the biggest impact on the city because it's near Old Seabrook, near the businesses, and easy to get them there and get them directed. Plus the markets we've, got down there now, it would be a great draw. But that's just me thinking.
Is there something in place, Gail, that we could do such a survey, of as many of the citizens as we could, maybe put something on the water bill? I don't know, something? Survey Monkey?
That was going to be my question, is how are we going to get the survey out to as many people as possible? I mean, like, you have like Survey Monkey. One of the problems with Survey Monkeys is there's easy ways to manipulate it. There are, because, it's what people do. And we issues, we send them out for like at work or other places. And, I think like if you go really down into the weeds in it, you can like limit like only one IP address per vote, per vote. But then if you've got 4 or 5 phones at your house, you have a very easily way to have every phone take that, so it's really, that would really be a difficult way. I know the city has our own like communications of getting emails out, things on water bills, but then again, you've got I live in an apartment complex. I don't get a water bill. How do I get a say in it? And like I fully support the idea of letting the taxpayers and the citizens make the call, because I mean, after all, it is their money, so I 100%, am on board with that. Just figuring out how to make sure we reach, because I mean, we're not going to reach 100% of our citizens, right? Like, I mean, we kind of have to go into with that mindset too, of knowing that it's impossible to get the feedback of every single one of our citizens, but the best way to reach as many as possible,
We've done this in the past with a.
So we did use SurveyMonkey before, like a budget process, to just get general information, comments from people on capital improvement projects. We didn't need it scientific. We were just trying to get some input for council. So what you're saying is correct. We've looked at different companies in the past. It's expensive. I don't want to misquote, but we'd probably be looking at $5,000 or $6,000 to have a company that could certify, do random calls, and do basically segments to make sure that you're getting good pockets of the community.
Statistical sampling.
So we could look into something if that's the desire of council to be more specific. But SurveyMonkey is very economic, but that's a true statement. We could not verify.
Yeah, but to spend 1.6 or 2.3 million, if we spent a couple of $1,000s to make sure it was right, I think it's a good investment,
Yeah.
personally.
Let me ask you, are you looking for a motion to move 800,000 from the general fund to the CIP? Is that going to take that?
So in essence, if you are, yeah, the fiscal year 26 budget amendment, if that was kind of what the 800,000 was assuming that y'all were on board with going ahead, we're healthy in reserves. The 800,000 with that motion did move it to capital. You can certainly change your mind. This is a follow-up conversation. With it sitting now in capital funds, it's just there until you make a decision on which project you want to allot it to.
Okay. And I think it's a good idea to go to the citizens and, say where you want to spend your money, just to make sure, but to make sure that they have the full story, because we can't do them all. And if you do the pier, that's pretty much going to be it. And that Bayside is not going to come within, a reasonable amount of time. So,
But we're still going to do Bayside, just wouldn't be.
Whatever, just so the whole story is out there.
And I think too, like I agree, having a couple of the different options, putting together maybe like a couple of presentations of what the options are, and present them at council, but maybe also trying to reach out to the community and try to set up a couple of different options for people to be able to kind of in person, kind of see it and kind of be able to ask some of the questions, put some thought into it, put some time into it, make it look, professional and presentable, but also at the same time, don't waste too much time and, keep kicking the can down the road. So that's the difficult part of it.
I think a town hall would maybe be appropriate to get that information out to the public.
Yeah, we do need to move kind of quickly. I think the county has kind of got us on a clock for the $500,000.
Send it as soon as you can.
Yeah. So, okay.
So can we give you can we give you instruction to put together a package outside of this full CIP of three? And you probably have to wait till after the Parks and Trails Committee meets to determine if that's the way they want to go with that. And then try to come up with some three, and when we're making apparel, we always, good, better, best, we always do give people three choices. And it's just easier to make three choices than 27. So if we can get three packages, and if we have to do a town hall, and if we get enough, if we get enough input from that, or if we can reach more people by doing a survey, I think that's statistically as many people as we can reach, as long as we can get a proper presentation to them so they know what they're looking at.
But do we need to do a motion to move this because we are trying to close out the budget? Do we need to do a motion to move the money?
No, you've already moved the money. And actually, I don't think on this one we need a motion.
Okay.
We're going to come back, it sounds like, an amend.
So we'll table.
Yeah. Really, since you want to do the survey, what I was thinking tonight, if y'all wanted to actually move it to a certain project, y'all would tell me that you weren't going to amend the CIP, but that's not happening. So no motion.
Okay, good. I look forward to seeing what we come up with. Item 6.6, consider and take all appropriate action on a job order contract with Red Oak Construction in an amount of $464,318.52 for the renovations of the Seabrook Police Department through Omnia Partners Purchasing Cooperative Contract 04-29 and authorize the city manager to execute the contract.
I make a motion to approve 6.6.
Second.
Councilmember Tolet makes a motion to approve. Councilmember Hammond seconds. Is there any discussion? We had already talked about this. Okay, all in favor, indicate. Thank you. All opposed? Unanimous. Item 6.7, consider to take all appropriate action on a job order contract with Red Oak Construction in an amount of $130,149.22 for the remodel and renovation of City Hall lobby and conference room, City Hall lobby restrooms, replacement of carpet and main stairwell flooring through Omni Partners, purchasing cooperative contract 0429, and authorize the city manager to execute the contract.
Move to approve 6.7.
Second.
Councilmember Hammond makes a motion to approve. Councilmember Sessom makes the second. Is there any, we had already, this was part of this 600,000 we had, approved for. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? None? Thank you. Okay, here we move into territory here. Item 6.8, consider and take all appropriate action on a job order contract with the Red Oak Construction in an amount of $62,662.13 for the remodel and renovation of City Hall's second floor lobby through the Omnia Partners Purchasing Cooperative Contract 0429, and authorize the city manager to execute the contract. This is an alternate proposal exceeding the fiscal year 2025-26 renovation budget that we already approved. And if approved, this will require a budget amendment.
Move to approve 6.8.
Second.
Councilmember Hammond makes a motion to remove 6.8. Councilmember Tolet seconds the motion. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? None. Thank you. Unanimous. Item 6.9, consider and take all appropriate action on job order contract, JOC, with Red Oak Construction in the amount of $26,361.27 for the records room split and remodel for additional office space through the Omnia Partners Purchasing Cooperative Contract 0429, and authorize city manager to execute the contract. This is an alternate proposal exceeding FY 2025-26 renovation budget, and if approved, will require a budget amendment.
Move to approve 6.9.
Second.
Councilmember Hammond makes a motion to approve. Councilmember Tolet seconds the motion. Is there any discussion about this item? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Councilmember Cervantes opposed. The motion carries. Item 7, routine business. Item 7.1, establish future meeting dates and agenda items.
Oh, that's me, sorry. Mayor and council, your next meeting is a joint meeting with the Planning and Zoning Commission on January 6th at 5 p.m., followed by your regular city council meeting on the same day, beginning at 6 p.m.
Okay, is that it? Hearing no further business before this committee, we will adjourn at 8:03. Thank you. Merry Christmas, everyone. Hope you join us on Thursday for the Christmas tree lightings. Thank you for all attending.
It's my understanding what you're looking